This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
Hey, Katie, we are here to wrap up our Pride Month on Christian Cringe. And boy, what a closing note we have. Derek Webb's album, Survival Songs. And we are brought in by a guest. This was assigned, similar to how we did with Flamey Grant and Marie. We assigned this to our musician friend and Fright School podcaster, Joshua Napier. Joshua, welcome. Is this the first time on the show? I was about to say welcome back, but no, this is the first time.
Yeah, it's my first time. Yeah. So I'm excited to be here. I've been wanting to come on.
Hell yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I hope that you enjoy. I had not heard this album when I assigned it. I had just heard stories about this album and how important it was to a lot of people when it came out. And I found, actually, I was trying to find some history on this album. And instead, I found an essay written by a transgender pastor, Laura Beth, and I'm going to really massacre this last name, and I apologize in advance, but it looks like it's Buchletter. They wrote they wrote a very long essay. I found the key paragraphs that I wanted to highlight, but I think that this is a great starting point for us to dive in. They wrote, Derek Webb has been writing music for 3 decades, both as a solo artist and in his early days with the critically acclaimed Christian band Caedmon's Call. He also has deep personal connections with the LGBTQ community through friends and family, and his new album, Survival Songs, was inspired by watching their struggles in an era of prolific Christian nationalistic, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric and legislation. As an intersex transgender pastor, I was intrigued by the album's effort to highlight a narrative of compassion and acceptance of queer and specifically transgender people. Webb says that these songs are to make us feel less alone. Webb pulls no punches in this song. He blatantly and unapologetically names the experiences and the fears the queer community has in 2025. I found a few moments a bit jarring, though I can't help but think that that's the point. For example, in the song Stay Safe, when he sings, "Stay safe out in the open, I want you free, but I need you alive." Queer Kid is a song about conversations that Webb had with teenagers heading back to school after Trump's election. Nail Polish is about why Derek Webb paints his nails. And I was there too. It won't be this way forever tells the story of a potentially life-saving note from a Starbucks barista. It feels like all these songs are essentially saying the same thing. That just means if it feels like these songs are all saying the same thing, it means that you're paying attention. The message is redundant by design. As Derek Webb told me in an interview, I'd rather say one thing 10 different ways than try to say 10 different things on a single project. Webb is modeling what allyship and advocacy for LGBTQ people can look like. The time for subtlety has long since passed. Webb believes that the risk is worth taking. And this is a quote from him. My friend, Nashville-based pastor Stan Mitchell, has on several occasions noted that if you claim to be someone's ally, but you're not getting hit by the same rocks that are being thrown at them, then you're not standing close enough to them. Webb noted that being an affirming presence in a person's life statistically is the greatest act of harm reduction that anyone can offer. And then this is a closing quote from him. Jesus had his reputation willingly ruined as a result of caring for, living with, and loving the most marginalized people in our culture. And if you wonder where the margins are and where Jesus would be standing and where the stones are going to be thrown, let me tell you without a single doubt, it's at the queer community. So this is kind of the mindset that he's going into this album with. We all dove into this album pretty blind. I know that I came away loving it. Katie sent a single sentence email that made me certain that she loved it. But Joshua, we're two straight people being emotionally moved from this album. I would love to know what your perspective on this album was, both as a musician and as a member of the LGBTQ community.
The LGBTQ people. Yes. Here we come. Yeah, it's interesting because, listening to it and kind of considering like being queer and this kind of coming from like a straight ex-Christian or something. I don't know. I'm very confused about where he currently stands because I was trying to get research and to understand what his like perspective was.
I think he doesn't know either, honestly.
Okay. That makes sense because I'm kind of introduced to well, not actually, but we could talk about it later. I realized that I did know who this guy was, but after you assigned the record. Okay. So I didn't know anything about him. So I was kind of like looking around. So when you first assigned it to me and I did, look at it and I was looking through the lyrics and I can be cynical. So my first initial response was like, who is this for? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, what is he trying to say or do? Like who is sitting down and, actually going to engage with this? But I came away like there's some really good lines in it. There's some really great music. It was written and like recorded in like a month. So it sometimes feels that way, just with some of the lyrical content and some of it I feel like could be been zhuzhed a little more. But overall, I enjoyed it. I listened to it 3 times through just to kind of really listen, to the music. So I came away with sort of liking it overall.
Okay.
I would say. I mean, this isn't something I'm gonna like put on a jam to,
I don't think it's designed to be something to put on in jam to. It's definitely, one of the
definitely,
tracks...
I need to cry at the circumstances type of music. Like it's an in your feels type of album that's like for specific moments, it feels like. So I'm very impressed that you listened to it 3 times through, Joshua, and also post talking to Joe, your co-host, who's like, oh, he won't listen to music that's done by a man.
My music taste is a bit, which we talked about on our episode. Yes, when I talked with you and Joe and I on our recent episode also talked about kind of why that is and just like the unsafety of male spaces growing up made me really not. I kind of just was never interested in a lot of like popular male music because the people who listened to it were not great.
Wait, you're telling me that you didn't feel safe with a group of Limp Bizkit fans?
Right.
I don't understand. I don't understand how that happened.
But I don't feel as robbed with Limp Bizkit as I do with Nirvana. I feel really robbed that I didn't plug into Nirvana as a teenage boy because there was so much there for me, but I was the guys around it.
Especially Kurt Cobain is one of those interesting ones where every once in a while people will post these very like rage baity things that's like, that if Kurt Cobain was still alive, he'd be MAGA. And it's like, if you think that, you have not been listening to a single fucking lyric that man ever wrote, because that dude was a progressive ally way before it was trendy to be a progressive ally to people. Like there's no world where he would have disappointed us in his older age. I refuse to believe that. A few of the other guys from that era, maybe. but Kurt specifically, I'm like, there's no way. I think similar to Eddie Vedder, he would have continued to stick very true to what his morals were in the 90s. Something that's cool that we haven't had before in the past. I sent you guys the YouTube playlist. I didn't clock this at first. I was maybe halfway through the album when I realized that each description has a handwritten explanation of the origins of the song from Derek Webb before them.
I didn't see that.
So I know, I thought that you guys may have missed it. So we're going to start on a track. I'm going to pull it down after a couple seconds, and I'm going to read you exactly what he wrote about the song on YouTube, and then we can discuss a little bit about it. But we're going to start with track 1, Queer Kid. So Derek Webb said for this one, this came directly from a conversation I had with a loved one about their first day back to school after Trump got reelected. How they felt exposed and unsafe just for showing up as themselves, like their very life was suddenly against the law. If that's you, if you felt like even the president is going to treat you like a bad stepdad, please know that you're all please know that all of your beautiful complexity is your gift to give to the world. So to answer your question, Joshua, as I was reading all these explanations, I do think his target is like queer teens, like queer teens that are having identity struggles, and kind of, you know, that attitude of, you see the people at like Pride Week that hold the signs that say like, if your parents don't love you, I'm your parents now, I think was very much who he made this album for, is those kids who maybe got kicked out of the house and think that there will never be a straight ally in their life, saying, no, you've got at least one here with Uncle Derek Webb. Like, I'm here. Yeah. I'm here for you. Like,
yeah. The album had that, and I was talking about this again recently, but you know, when you had like that teacher who was like clearly a Christian, but also like trying to be cool and like into, and like would lean into like, you are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah,
and you're just gonna like that. It had that kind of tone throughout, like just, you know, 100%. You're gonna be fine if you just, you know, push through, and you know, there is more to the world than where you're at right now. So yeah.
I think what I always like about Derek Webb, even though musically I can like take or leave it, I need to be in the right mood for a Derek Webb album a lot of the time. But what I've always liked about Derek Webb is he was one of the first people I remember that I grew up in this Christian music scene being a fan of. And it felt like he immediately was like, before anybody else, calling out hypocrisy. And it really, like, on his first solo album, he wrote a song called "They'll Know We're Christians by the T-shirts We Wear," and it was about like the commercialism and like basically like that whole idea of like, oh, we don't even believe half the shit we're saying, we just need everybody to know who we are and advertise and be obnoxious. He was one of the guys who, I can't remember the context of the song, but he wrote a song and it had the word fuck in it, but it was in the context of talking about like starving children and all the things that we're not doing to help. And then like the last line was like, and I bet you're a lot more upset about the word fuck than anything else I've said, or something like it was very much like him pushing those boundaries in like 2001 and being like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool that this like dude who was like the praise and worship leader at a Creation Music Festival is one of the first people to speak out about this. So it does, contextually, it makes sense that he would eventually make an album like this. But I do think that you're right, that he's never really lost that, like, turns his hat backwards, sits on the seat the wrong way. It's like,
some of my fellow kids.
I'm wanting you cool guys, buddy. And don't worry about it.
Totally okay. And you know, go ahead, Katie.
No, I was just gonna ask you, Joshua, like from your perspective, like does it kind of breach over that, like, what's up, my fellow kids, or does it feel a little bit more sincere, or does it feel a little bit generic?
I would definitely feel sincere, because you're talking about like somebody who is really turning their back on like a huge income, like stream, you know. I mean, really, Christian music, I mean, that's a, you know, that could be a really hot commodity. You know, and I looked up, I was curious about criticism of this record from the church. And there was like a Reddit post about, I'm so disappointed in Derek Webb. And so I clicked on it thinking it'd be about this record, but it was like 10 years old. Yeah. Where they were already mad at him, you know, and like, oh, he's abandoning his faith and this is so sad, you know. And so I just started looking more and more. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's been doing this for a while. Like my initial cynicism of like, okay, I'm going to turn my back on the money of like big time Christian, global whatever music, corporate music to like pander to like gays, queer kids, maybe whatever. But it really feels a lot more sincere than that. And I think, because of how quickly this was made, the lyrics and all are really coming. It feels from a very honest place, which doesn't always work lyrically sometimes. There's parts of it where I'm like, I don't know about that. The
judging needs to happen.
Clearly the initial thought, so I think there's a real sincerity in here.
And I think that, like you were saying, the people turning on him was so long ago. It's definitely not like one of those. We've seen that a million times, right? Where the person's like, "Oh, now you have something to say. Now you're chiming in. Like the damage is already done." It's like, no, you can never deny he was on the forefront of calling out the hypocrisy and the damage a long time ago.
Yeah.
I did write down. There was 2 lyrics that gut punched me. One was just, "I guess we're illegal now." Was a real
God, that one.
But the one that really got me was, "And by then there'll be greener grass growing on the grave of the queer kid." Mm-hmm. I was like, holy shit. Like it is just depicting, I think he's doing a very beautiful job of like, yes, this is an album written for possibly a closeted or recently out teenage kid who's feeling very alone. But there are lyrics like that are also very much aimed at that Christian who's on the fence that's still listening, where you have to walk away and be like, is that what you want? Is that what you're aiming for? Does winning to you look like a child is dead because
dead
of your
in a grave?
Yeah. It's impressively aggressive for how chill the music is the whole time.
No, there's a biting element to it that is so like perfectly kind of encapsulated in the like, hey, this is how you speak kindly and with love to a person who is going through a lot, especially in this era. And it's like he never mentions like the other side of it, but he does frame it within our current system. And it's probably the most, searing view of it, because it's real. And that's what I was like. I was like, I can't speak from the LGBTQ perspective, but I feel like I did see that in at least in his effort.
So the next track I want to really dive in with Joshua for a second when I read this description, but I've heard him talk about this on another Geekscape podcast, The Pickle Home Companion. He was a guest and talked about the writing of this song. But here we go. Track 2, Nail Polish, which I will say, I love the way that track 1 bleeds right into this one with that kind of guitar part that starts playing at the end of Queer Kid, and it blends very nicely.
Yeah, and I made a note about that. Yeah.
Derek Webb's
something in there.
Derek Webb's right up here says, a lot of folks have asked me why as a straight cis man do I often paint my nails. While it is fun and an easy way to change gender boundaries, it turned out that painting nails was a fantastic early warning system when I'm out in public with my queer family and friends. Potentially unsafe and homophobic, transphobic people simply can't help but stare and just out themselves to me. So when me and my painted nails walk into a room, I get a very quick sense of who I need to watch out for and to help keep my people safe. And all it takes is a little bit of nail polish. So come on, people, be brave and pick your favorite shade.
Yeah, I like that. And I did. There's something very conceptual, which this is. I was listening to another kind of thing he was talking about like writing concept albums. And so this very, it's very conceptual. But there's something in like you go from I'm talking to a queer kid to discussing my like nail polish and blending those songs together. There's like this subtle identification with queer people in a way too. Yeah. That I really like, in tying those songs together. I was like, oh, there's something kind of happening here of like, the continuum of these things, the gray areas maybe too, for people who consider themselves straight but want to play, with that idea, or at least with the way they come across. So yeah, I love that thought.
Yeah. How about you, Katie? What are your thoughts on nail polish?
It's so funny because like just coming from an Arizona background and like thinking about how everyone treated somebody like a guy with nail polish. Like I know exactly the jokes that people would make. I know exactly the bristling that would happen around me. And like, I remember being like, oh, that's cool. But like, I didn't know why. But that signage of basically being like, I can identify who's an ally and who's gonna be a problem is such a beautiful way of framing, once again, this terrible society and system that we're in. That's a step of understanding that I don't think I ever had back in the day, but like I love having that perspective now. And it's so funny because I'm like, well, I can't just like wear nail polish and like show up and be like, hey, yeah, but I mean, I do know that like I don't dress like normal women gendered usually do. So I feel like maybe that's what helped endear me to some of the community, but like I do love the idea that like, come on, people, just pick a shade, like it doesn't have to be anything but like an invitation, and it's a beautiful metaphor.
I even think about when I was a kid, even in college, I was very much an ally, as much as I could be from a white suburban kid growing up in a mostly Christian area. But even in college, I never signed up for the Gay Straight Alliance because I was like, well, that's not for me. Straight is in the fucking name. And I still like couldn't push myself to be like, you should join that group. And I don't think that anyone, like, I was almost entirely friends with people who were queer. Like, I don't think anyone would have suddenly been like, Matt Kelly's in the Gay Straight Alliance, he must be gay. Like, I don't think that was ever the actual fear. I truly don't know what it was that never made me just sign up for it and go that extra mile. And I feel like nail polish kind of like, I felt called out in that too. I was like, you know what? Why don't I just slather some nail polish on once in a while?
What color would you go with, Matt?
I love blue. I love blues. I probably would go for some form of a blue, an aqua blue or a navy blue.
Ooh, I have a plan for San Diego Comic-Con now.
Okay. Listen,
nail spa day.
Oh, we get a medi-pedi?
Yeah. I love that you called it a medi-pedi, but I love it.
Track 3, we got Stay Safe. I loved the instrumentation in this one, and I love that there's like this piano that kind of comes and goes throughout the song. I really liked it. But here is Derek Webb's breakdown of writing the song. He said, "I'll never forget the day I wrote Stay Safe for survival songs. It was the day I watched someone in my family walk out into the world for the very first time in the clothes that matched how they felt and who they were inside. I was absolutely in awe of their courage and their integrity, and the outside finally matching what was within. I never felt more genuinely proud of or terrified for them than I did on that day. It was from those feelings that the first line of the song came to me. I want you free, but I need you alive. If you're also a similarly brave soul risking your life on the regular just to be who you are, I'm so proud of you, and I want you free, but I need you alive as well. So please stay safe."
This made me weep.
Yeah, this is a heavy one. I'll tell you the one that made me weep, honestly, is
I mean, they all made me weep, really.
But there was one that really, especially when I read the story behind it, I was like, well, I'm fucked up for the day.
Great.
I think Stay Safe also, this had one of the best lyrics on the whole record, which is cause in your body politic, just breathing in and out is like an act of war.
Yeah,
I really love
that's
that.
a good line.
That's a
really
great
good
line.
Yeah.
This was one of those albums that like I was going to write down some of the lyrics, but I was just so into all of it that I was like, I'm just going to experience this. And then I was very exhausted at the end. And then I didn't write anything down.
That's what I did first. I just listened to it, and then I sat down and listened to it again to listen for lyrics. So I did. I pulled snatches of snippets of lyrics that I liked throughout. And then I listened again just for that, like the subtlety, those little there's like a line and then the piano kind of comes in like tinkling, and that I'm like, oh, that's so cool, so there's some nice musical touches because it's pretty sparse as a record.
It is That's kind of what I always found interesting when I do dive into a Derek Webb album, which, like I said, is not often, but every once in a while I'm in the mood, is that because he's kind of been self-producing his records for so long, they do go from like you said, either very, very sparse, or the flip side is like he'll do like a very synth heavy, like overproduced, but it's always like, what can he do within his house? One of the songs he does with his wife on the record, and I think she's also a musician, and they just like, they do their thing. Like they're just two touring musicians that are creating music in their home. And I think as a podcast recording right now of a bunch of people who are creative, there's not much more you can ask for than a partner who's willing to play in the same sandbox as you when you're being creative.
Yeah.
So I love that. Do we have any other thoughts though on Stay Safe before we get into one that really made me fucking cry hard? Let's go into I Was There Too. It Won't Be This Way Forever. So
I also love this like journey
the music.
beat. Yeah, it's like a road trip beat, and I love that.
So here's what Derek Webb wrote for this one, and I will try to get through this without choking up because I got choked up reading this. I was so moved by the kindness of a Starbucks barista that I wrote a song about them. I have a loved one who's going through an impossibly hard time, and while they were getting their coffee at the Starbucks, the barista saw and recognized something in them that they apparently knew from their own experience, evidence of self-harm. They didn't do anything or draw attention, but they did write down a quick note and tuck that note into the coffee sleeve of the drink that they handed my loved one. What they wrote in that note was powerful, vulnerable, and kind. It just said, I was there too, and it won't be this way forever. I think about that note every day, and it reminds me to try to slow down enough to really see the people I interact with. Sometimes something as simple as a note tucked in a coffee cup can be the difference between life and death. And I hope that barista one day hears this, and I hope that they're on the lookout for more queer kids who desperately need that kind word. If you're watching, thank you. You're truly a lifesaver. Like, holy shit. But yeah, the line that jumped out at me in this one is he says, you're barely 13 and you're fighting for your life every day. I was like, oh, what? Like, oh, what a good song. Oh my God, Katie's really crying.
I told you.
I was like, oh no, I can see it through the camera.
Which is rare usually. Like, I can't cry on cue, but just give me a Derek Webb album and a fucking backtrack.
Yeah,
there you go.
Into your acting career. You can cry on cue as long as I'm given a Derek Webb album ahead of time.
And a little bit of backstory.
But what's everyone else's thought? This was my favorite song on the album for sure. I loved this song.
It's a beautiful story song too. Like I was in it from the get, like obviously like kind of like the road trip beat. Like I was like, oh yeah, this feels like a good indie film backtrack song. Like it's but like then the story of it, it just makes me cry. Like it's there is such a simplistic beauty to kindness, and I feel like he hits it in a lot of these songs, which is why it makes me cry every single time, because it's just like, it's also showing how a simple act like a note could save a life, and how much hate there is in our society right now, which is appalling to think about, but it also makes sense within the context that we've talked about in terms of Christian cringe and corporatized Christianity and the messages that have been so filled with hate for so long. Like contextually and historically, it does make sense, but this is like such an active kindness that I'm like, oh God, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard Joshua talk about this on podcasts, and I think that Joshua and I kind of align on this, which I think even Joshua, when I first met him a couple years ago, would have been shocked that he was the one that was feeling this way. But like, I feel like I'm more optimistic about the future than I should be in a lot of sense, because I agree that, like, yes, almost every single thing that comes across your news feed is just the absolute most terrifyingly worst things that could be happening in the world. But like, day in and day out, I do feel like I see moments of genuine kindness and acts of kindness, and like, to discount those are still happening in this world would be wrong. And to discount that maybe the shittiness that we're in right now is part of why those acts of kindness are becoming more apparent to us as well, is like something that can't be discounted. That, you know, you have to sometimes be in dark to see light. Like I do think that that's kind of also what the whole point of this is. As much as this album makes you cry and it's about these real life experiences of survivors, it's a very hopeful album. It's not a pessimistic album at all. It's an overwhelmingly optimistic view of what the world should be.
It kind of relates back to Joshua. You and I talked on Napping Through Happy Hour about the optimistic nihilism, and I don't know if that was anything. Yeah, please go ahead. I don't want
No, you're okay. I'm just gonna say, I agree. Like I am, you know, more of an optimistic nihilist. Like, life ends, things end. Sometimes we're really cruel, we're sometimes really monstrous, but I think in the long run, overall, we're more beautiful and kind and generous than we're given credit for, because, I mean, species wise, because of the, you know, the commodification of negativity, you know, and like those sorts of articles get people talking. You know, I keep joking. It's like, oh my gosh, you know what we should do? It's like, just go on, and every highly rated great movie, you just go, the reason why this sucks. And then, you know,
well, that's
because it just drives people to. I saw one for Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep is overrated. Everybody agrees. And it's like 1,000 comments of people fighting. And you're like, well, that was written for money.
Well, and you know what, though? I see it. The one that always drove me nuts, because I see it from so many different perspectives, the ones that make me infuriated are the ones that are aimed for the right wing, where it's like, everybody thinks so-and-so went too far and should be canceled. And then, like, in the article, there are 2 tweets that they, like, comb the internet to try to find. Like, it's like, most people have an understanding of, like, satire, true comedy, and punching down. And they just try to find the 3 or 4 people who don't understand the difference between those 3 things, and then use it to rally up people like my parents to be like, you can't say nothing in this country anymore.
Right. And queer and trans issues are such an easy way to do that, you know. And we see that, like the Adele thing a few years ago, where it's like the trans community hates Adele, and it was like, what are you talking about? There's like one random tweet that was taken out of context and used to fuel like a day of news, you know. And you're just like, this is so stupid. I did want to say before we move on, this also had a really good line, but sometimes scars are as literal as ransom notes, and they always show up and down your arms. So good. Like, that's a great line.
The ransom notes and like the body image, like, even the, like, just like the imagery of like your sleeve moved like slightly. I can't remember the lyric exactly, but it's like your sleeve moved exactly, and like I knew or whatever, and I was just like, oh God, like the imagery of this is so evoking, and like I feel like I knew this person, and I also wanted to be like, it isn't forever. It isn't.
Yeah.
You're gonna find better days, but it's a lot of work, and it is a lot of war to to live and survive. Oh God, this fucking album, you guys.
It makes me feel like, if not this fall, then after we get through like Christmas and into the new year, I want us to go back to the first Caedmon's Call album and kind of look and see, like, all right, here's what he was writing in like 1995 and kind of track that like 20-year arc
Trajectory.
You know what? I feel like we're halfway through the
30.
album. Let's take a real quick commercial break and then we'll finish up the album.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Choice Hotels get you more of what you value. Comfort Inn, it's calling your name. Save on the stay. Oh, and free waffles are yours to claim. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Want to elevate your travel experience? Here's how. With a Delta SkyMiles Reserve American Express card, you can relax before your flight in the Delta Sky Club with up to 15 visits per medallion year. And now through July 15th, 2026, you can earn up to 125,000 bonus miles, so you're closer to your next adventure. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve card. Check out the new design at www.delta.com/Spotify. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Put down that smartphone and listen to me. I'm Matthew Milligan, professional musician and lifelong Weird Al fan. Each week, I'm joined by professional podcaster and close personal friend Matt Kelly to take a dive off the deep end into the vast career of pop culture icon Weird Al Yankovic on our show, Weird Algorithm. Along with some very special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we tackle every song, every television appearance, and every bit of sketch comedy Al has produced in chronological order, covering the good old days of My Bologna and Eat It, the fun zone of tacky and white and nerdy, and everything in between. As we go, we're ranking the songs, albums, and music videos in the hopes of creating the ultimate guide to a career bigger than the biggest ball of twine in Minnesota. So the next time you're having one of those days, stuck in a traffic jam, wondering why does this always happen to me, just kick off your sneakers and stick around for a while because we've got it all on Weird Algorithm, available wherever you get your podcasts. And now you know. Was that enough references?
All right, so side B sort of starts with muscle memory. Another fun little chill one. Derek wrote about this one. For over 25 years, my solo albums have always had one random love song on them. Muscle Memory is that song on this one. No matter what my albums are about, there's always an odd love song that shows up in the batch, which I've always included. And here's the truth. I would be nowhere without my wife. Abby Parker is not only the best partner, but she's a badass full-time musician and singer, and her stunning voice is all over this album. It sounds like keyboards or angels or something. But Muscle Memory is about the risk required to trust and believe someone, and to ask someone else to trust and believe you. On an album that I'm hoping will encourage and empower queer folks, I think that this is extremely relevant, especially if you choose safe friends and family and leave behind those who don't see or support you. So I hope you find your safe people who are worth taking the risk of trusting and believing again. I saw Joshua nodding there.
Yeah.
I did love the lyric. And it's one of his, I'm a Christian artist, but I curse lines. But the baby, I know it scares the shit out of you because it scares the shit out of me. I just love the sentiment of that. Like, we're both on the same team. This is terrifying.
Yeah. This is a song, like, as like a relational therapist, I want to like give this to all my couples, like, because it's about attachment issues. It's about, and I think contextually within a queer context, you know, if we you know, take this song and apply it to the rest of the record, the way we learn to be in the world from our parents, the way we learn to like be afraid of ourselves sometimes, or our sexuality, and how we kind of carry that into the world, I think is interesting. But I really like this line. It's crazy the way one day we agonize over water dripping. The next day a flood swallows up our whole lives and we're skinny dipping. I'm like, I feel like I have that conversation all the time with couples clients. Like, you know, you are just torturing each other over these little things when there's such bigger, you know, bigger issues or bigger stuff to figure out, you know, and in the way that, yeah, you, again, those attachment issues, and they do operate like muscle memory. You know, it's like we just go back to those things that feel safe, even when they hurt us and hurt our partner. So yeah, I really like this song a lot. I thought it was like, yeah, I need to like print these lyrics out and give them to
all of your
yeah. You have to figure out how to be
how to work that in
storm and like
Katie, don't you love when there's a moment where you're just like, man, we picked the perfect person for this episode?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I was just gonna say, it's like, Joshua, didn't you also just get a flood in your house or something?
oh, kind of. Yeah, we had like a whole weird backup in the house, so you just have to laugh about it. Like we just go, well, fuck, what are we gonna do?
What a beautiful transition of like take it like we were complaining about the dripping of the water and now we're dipping in the flood. Like I love that transition of like, you know, shit's gonna happen. It's gonna be okay, and we're gonna get through it together, because that's the scariest part about it all, is that we are in this together, and you know, we might as well skinny dip in the flood.
Yeah, because like there's going to be so
much of you and Jeff.
Yeah. Well, and again, and especially with like clients who have kids, it's like, oh my gosh, imagine in 10 years your kid steals the car and does this and that. What are you going to do? How are you going to be together on that? You know, like you are arguing over like, oh, you know, he didn't do this or that, which again, a lot of times those little arguments, right, are about much bigger things. But it's like, oh man, you don't even know what is on the horizon, children. Like, you got to like shore this up, because in a few years it's going to get real wild.
Well, I mean, that to pat my own relationship on the back for a split second.
Go ahead.
But you know, like very often we will just look at each other and remind each other, like, we're only going to survive this if we're a team. Like, like we say that to each other constantly, whether it's like house issues, financial issues, like going through a 3-year-old toddler who's struggling to be potty trained, like whatever the hurdle is. Like if we're not in this as a team, if this all falls on one person's shoulder, we're never going to get out of this. We need to be a team. And I think that that's really what this Muscle Memory song also comes down to, is like, you know, and to apply it to the queer lens and what this album's about, like we're stronger together than we ever are apart. You know what I mean? Like there's power in numbers. Let's talk about a really weird song here. Sola Translove Part 1, Words of Meditation. So Derek wrote about this one. I learned this great phase in my post-evangelical Christian life, and I love it. Do you want to hear what the phrase is? In my opinion. It's the best. In the song Sola Translove Part 1, I'm mixing some languages and muses on my own opinions about our worth. There's also some language about the unconventional roles that we can play in a relationship with one another beyond the conventional masculine and feminine binaries. It's less a topical song and more a meditation. Here at the break between side A and side B of the album, it felt right to slow down and do some reimagining. Maybe I could be a mother. Maybe you could be a daughter. Maybe we don't need approval or saving. Maybe you were born pre-approved. Just maybe you and I cannot be removed from only love beyond love. Right now, you're beautiful and worthy of love, in my opinion.
Aww.
I love the way he writes. Like these like little like 1 paragraph breakdowns of the album. I'm like, you really get the like the Mr. Rogers level of kindness with like a really sharp sense of humor mixed in there too.
Yeah.
Which I love. I mean, I truly love. I think I love the man Derek Webb more than I like the musician Derek Webb. It's like I'll keep buying his stuff because I like who he is and what he stands for, even if like sometimes the albums are not really my cup of tea of what I look for when I'm listening to music. But man, I wish the song was maybe not 6 minutes, if I'm being honest, but it's not bad. It's definitely an interesting experiment.
I will agree with that. I was like, damn, 6 minutes. Okay. I was like, I felt like I got it. And so I'm not going to lie, I skipped through this one. I was
if
like,
there was 1, 2, it would be this.
Yeah.
How about you, Joshua, though? Because this one's a little bit more, I feel like this is like a musician's song. Like, it's like, look at all the cool layerings I'm doing and stuff.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, this is sort of the thesis of the record, right? Like, why do we have these divisions? Why do we, why do we care, how somebody else, like, it's not hard to be kind. It's not hard to be accepting. It's not hard to practice, like, Jesus's actual teachings, So, but yeah, there are definitely some things in it that, like, that jurisprudence line. I'm like, we could do it. Like, you could edit some of this down a little bit. It's just like, but I get it. I get this. Like, okay, here's my thesis statement. On the album. Which again, I feel like I have this, kind of thing with like the current Christo-nationalist movement, right? Is like they have this idea that they have the authority on the Bible and that they have the authority on the truth of it, when there are like 50,000 different Christian denominations and churches. And do those people not get a say, and I've seen that especially with my born again siblings, who it's like, you've been here for like a year in the Bible, and you're telling me that a priest or a pastor that I follow who has 50 years of experience, has a doctorate in philosophy, is wrong about the Bible and is wrong about their embracing of queer people. No, sorry, don't really care. And I feel like that's kind of what
wrong.
The Pope is wrong. I mean, I'm not here to defend any. I'm in the weirdest situation these days as an atheist who's constantly defending Christianity from its followers.
But that's the interesting thing.
But it's weird.
We spoke to Nova Bright, who's raising a trans adopted child, and whose grandfather started Campus Crusades, and and like having to like explain to the kid that they're raising, like, hey, like, not all religion is really like this national Christianity that we're seeing. And it is a weird position. I think it's a weird position for all of us. I think it's a weird position for this podcast, even, where we kind of set out to be like, hey, we're not going to make fun of Christianity, but we are going to make fun of like the swings and misses.
Yeah, and of which there are plenty.
There are plenty. But that's also why I love what we're doing here in June, because it's more of the celebration of the good art. And where's the good art coming from? What is the message really transcending? And like, I do feel like this song, albeit long, communicates that.
To go to your point, Joshua, specifically about like your born again family members that think that they know more. The thing that I always find really interesting, especially as I've like befriended more and more people within my church, the pastor of my church and so on and so forth, is that there's this fascinating thing to me, which is that people forget that like part of becoming a pastor, part of going to school to learn about the Bible also involves a lot of history. You have to learn historical context. You have to understand what was the world that this was written in. And that's what I think is, you're right.
This was originally written. Yeah,
that's what is so funny about like newly born again, like have been religious for 2 years, that just think that they get the whole context and they get every single aspect of it. And they, because they're not looking to learn about religion, they're looking to justify their shittiness. And that's what it comes down to a lot of the time. And that can be the most frustrating people to deal with.
Or to explain their pain. And like with my family members, again, and it's not always from like a violent or like wrong place. Like I do think like they're trying to explain their pain. They're trying to explain the world that it's in. They have their own fears. They want their family to be safe. You know, we're on the same page about a lot of things. It's just this idea that they get to, you know, tell others how to live, you know, or the power piece of it. It's like, okay, this is, I'm recognizing that you feel very powerless. It's like the thing of like, okay, you don't want to believe in white privilege because you have failed to use it to your advantage, you know, to activate it. And it's kind of the same thing. I feel like white nationalist Christian movement is doing that for them. It's giving them this power, like, well, fine in this world, but in the next world, you know, and it's giving them permission to be really shitty about the environment, to be shitty about the future. And that's the part of it that's really sad and disappointing. Because I'm like, hey, the Bible said to be like benevolent dominion. So this dismissiveness of environmental causes is like also antithetical.
Well, it's
to all of it.
To all of it.
It's kind of like the weirdness that I constantly see within my own family of like, we all agree that billionaires are the problem, but yet you've also really saddled yourself with the most billionaire of billionaires to be your salvation in this situation. It's like you don't see that like it's just a bad call. It's a bad call all around with a lot of it.
And now there's a golden statue. It's like, what is happening?
The fact that like even the pastor was like, it's not a golden calf. I do love that Jon Stewart was like, no, it's a cow. It's a fully grown cow.
But also like it's saying it's not a golden calf is the same as starting a story with I'm not a racist, but where it's just like if you have to put the disclaimer in front of it, you know that you're in the wrong.
Yes. You know, you already know. And the fact that you're continuing to go along with this is like the greatest hypocrisy that we could ever see so publicly on display. And I feel like that's been a big struggle, especially in America lately, is just like you don't stand for anything. So you stand for nothing and you're touting it all over the place. And it's just like everybody knows that you're wrong. You know you're wrong, but you're still going for it. And it hurts. It hurts everyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the Hamilton lyric. If you stand for nothing, who do you fall for? All right. Enough musical theater references. It's Pride Month, for God's sake.
No.
But we got two more real tracks, starting with In Your Place. Yeah. This one, I wrote this one, really broke me.
I'm taking my glasses off for that.
All right. So good. That's probably a good call. Here was his write-up on this one. He said, I can't imagine what it must feel like to go in and out of the closet, having to code switch your way in and out of relationships and situations just to keep yourself safe. It shouldn't appear courageous or inspiring to simply show up in the world as the person you actually are. But that's what's happening to trans people every day, being told they don't exist while having their actual lives and existence threatened and politically weaponized. It's all too much. If you're exhausted and can't imagine a day when you could be thriving, doing meaningful work, surrounded by your chosen family, just look at those who've gone before you. Everyone you look up to has been where you are, and they're living proof that there is hope. Never forget that you're not alone in your place.
Yeah.
This is a really heavy song. I get why he put this towards the tail end of it, because you used the word thesis earlier. I feel like this backside from the meditation, words of meditation, to the end of the album with words of affirmation, you're just kind of like, all right, you took those 5 stories up in the front. Here's your take. It's like writing an essay for school. Like you have your intriguing intro, and now we're getting into the weeds of like, here's what I need you to take away from this journey that we've had together.
Yeah, it's a real invitation to radical empathy and radical compassion, which I think is really lacking in some of the, in some of this, again, this sort of evangelical thing that we're seeing happen in America and the States, where it's like, if you would have been born somewhere else, you may have been Hindu, you may have been a Buddhist, it's, what's to say, like, I have this conversation with my family too. It's like, if you had read the books I read at the age I read them, you'd probably think more like me. And if I had I would think more like you, like it's so easy for us to be in one another's place. you know, like it's just cosmic, I don't know, an accident or whatever, however you want to explain it, that we have come to the ideas that we've come to, and to the lives that we've come to.
I think about it a lot when people talk about colleges radicalizing kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're not being radicalized. They're just reading and learning the history that you've actively chosen not to read or learn about.
And being exposed to people that are different. I mean,
Yes.
I as much as I went to a Christian college, I was very much radicalized because my roommates were gay and they were scared.
Yeah.
And like, you know, seeing that entire like transition of just like public interest in the LGBTQ community and then within the Christian spectrum, it's like you could see it all coming from a mile away, and it's horrifying to feel completely out of control and not be able to help in any way other than radical acts of kindness or radical acts of empathy and understanding what it's like to be in someone's place. And it's so funny because I think this is one of the songs that made me think of, like, you know, back in the day in Arizona, I was 100% on board with all the horrible shit that like everyone was saying around with me because I was so ingrained in that position. And then it wasn't until like I started to meet new people and understand them that I finally stopped looking from my own perspective and looked from somebody else's, that I was like, oh no, like this whole like judging people because of like their sexuality or whatever doesn't have to start with, yeah, but for me, this is what's true. It's like, yeah, but for someone else, that's a different truth. And that, you know, like, why not let someone love the person that they love, as opposed to being like, no, it has to be my way because it's the only perspective. And I mean, just like the imagery of this song and like saying like, I know you're in the like the ranks or whatever, but like being in your place, like you can step out of that.
Yeah.
If you want to. And it takes an act of courage, an act of bravery to break away from the herd mentality of everything that's been completely like repetitively put on your own assumptions, your own phrasing, your own perspective of the world.
Yeah.
And then like to step out of line for that, it requires a huge act of bravery.
Yeah. This last song that we're about to go to, the write-up that Derek did, he didn't do a write-up on words of affirmation, but I think I understand what words of affirmation is after reading his write-up for this final track. This may be the time to close your eyes. So what he wrote about this, he said, when I set out to write survival songs, one of the first things I did was to fire out roughly a dozen or so text messages to all of my queer and trans friends, as well as other creatives, and ask them if you could spend just a moment with the adolescent or teen version of yourself, hold that kid by the shoulders, look at their face, and say one thing to help them stay alive in 2025, what would it be? And as I was trying to write my closing song for the album, something a great friend of mine, Rick, said came to mind. He said, yes, we do need to resist and advocate and fight, but sometimes when it's all too much, it's okay to just close your eyes. The song, This May Be Time for You to Close Your Eyes, is the hymn of the day coming when the painters and the activists and the prophets bring good news, when husbands, wives, and wives are safe to thrive, and that the true justice falls and tears are wiped away. Let this be the day that we can finally say, children, open your eyes. And my assumption is that the closing track is just a bunch of the voice memos that the people he texted sent along with it. But my God, the production of this is incredible. It reminds me of the movie Once. There is like a point where I'm like, this feels like something like Fallen Slowly, or like one of those big epic songs in that movie. I'm so glad I'm sure eventually I would have gotten around to listening to this album, but I'm so glad that we did it this way, because my God, what a perfect closing track to this album and this journey.
Yeah, I really like this one. It was funny because you mentioned another one earlier, saying that indie movie vibes, and this was literally like my note was indie movie vibes driving song. It's like that drone shot as a car drives over through the mountains in the third act of the film. We think, we're starting to we're getting it. We're opening our eyes and embracing the world, and it just has that. And I love how it builds and builds and builds and just becomes more intense. It was a really great end. I really enjoyed this song.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal songwriting all around from Derek Webb on this album, I have to say. Well, Joshua, thank you. Thank you for going on this journey with us. If people really love your insight, same way that I could speak for Katie and myself, we always love your insight. Where can they go to hear more of your thoughts on things like, I don't know, horror movies and queerness within them?
They can find me at Fright School on all the things. That's where I'm at. Thank you for having me. This is really cool. And I want to see more. I think this is a really radical act of allyship that I think we kind of need to see more of. If you're wrapping up your Pride Month, the thing that I would tell any cis heteronormative straight people, whatever, however you define yourself in that is, challenge the idea that you're the default. Challenge the idea that you are the normal. Like any way a human shows up is normal, and we need to nurture that human. And I think this is sort of kind of his statement on that. Like, this is me. This is how I show up in the world, and I want you to show up in the world as you are, and not in reaction to just my identity. And I think there's something really powerful in that, and something that allies can jump aboard and kind of start and challenge these ideas. Because we only exist as reaction to this idea that there's only one way to actually be human, and everything else is abnormal or is queer or different, so. But yeah, beautiful album, beautiful being here with you all.
Well, that was a beautiful closing. There's not much else I can say. Happy Pride. Katie, we're likely to cry a lot. Well, we might cry tears of pain. Who knows? But next month we are doing the Summer of Ska. So it's going to be all Christian ska music.
a little bit different. A
little bit different tone. But I do think we're starting with Bunch of Believers. So we might still cry just a little bit.
Maybe we will.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.